The asteroid belt, K7119, was notorious among salvagers for its treacherous navigation and slim pickings. Most professionals avoided it entirely, considering the meager scrap metal hardly worth the risk of hull punctures and radiation exposure. This made it the perfect hunting ground for Eleanor Ellie Carmichael, whose desperation outweighed her caution. Ellie's salvage vessel, the Second Chance, was itself a patchwork of salvaged parts, held together by thermal adhesive and sheer determination. The ship's name was both ironic and aspirational, a reminder that everyone deserved another shot, even a 34-year-old mechanic with more technical know-how than credentials. "Life support at 68%, chirped the ship's rudimentary AI in its perpetually cheerful tone. "Recommend terminating expedition within 4 hours to maintain safe return parameters." "Noted," Ellie muttered, adjusting her scanner's sensitivity. The device had been acting temperamental lately, flickering between normal and heightened readings without apparent cause. She tapped it against her palm, the universal fix for finicky technology across the galaxy. "Come on, you glorified calculator," she grumbled. "Just give me one decent reading before you conk out completely." As if responding to her frustration, the scanner suddenly spiked, its needle swinging violently into the red zone. Ellie frowned. Either the device was finally surrendering to entropy, or it had detected something massive. She adjusted course toward the reading source, navigating through a particularly dense cluster of asteroids. What emerged from behind a rotating chunk of space rock made her breath catch. The ship was enormous, at least cruiser class, possibly larger. Its distinctive elongated hull and sweeping stabilizers immediately identified it as Calraxian design, specifically from their renowned Stellar Horizon era of shipbuilding. According to the historical archives, these vessels were legendary for their advanced propulsion systems and nearly indestructible hulls. Yet, this one appeared abandoned, its exterior dulled by cosmic dust and minor impact damage. No running lights, no energy signatures. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like just another piece of space junk, a clever disguise that had probably kept it safe from less discerning salvagers. But Ellie knew better. This wasn't merely salvage, this was the find of a lifetime. "Second Chance, maintain position at 50 meters, she commanded, already pulling on her EVA suit. "Monitor all channels for distress signals or proximity alerts." "Acknowledged," the AI responded. "Safety protocols suggest—" "Override safety protocols," Ellie interrupted, securing her helmet. "Authorization Carmichael, 7 Tango 3. The AI fell silent, its programming preventing further objections after a direct override. Ellie checked her oxygen levels 4 hours standard, plus a 2-hour emergency reserve, and grabbed her toolkit. "If I'm not back in 3 hours, initiate emergency protocols and send a distress beacon to the nearest outpost," she instructed, stepping into the airlock. The space between vessels was quiet, the kind of absolute silence that still unnerved Ellie, despite years of EVA experience. She maneuvered carefully, using her suit's thrusters, approaching what appeared to be a secondary maintenance access port on the cruiser's starboard side. The ship's name was barely visible beneath layers of cosmic dust, Dawn Reclamation. A fitting name for a vessel that was about to experience exactly that, Ellie thought with a smile. The access port was sealed, but not locked, another indication that the abandonment had been deliberate, rather than the result of catastrophic failure. Ellie attached a magnetic anchor to the hull and pulled herself closer, examining the manual release mechanism. It was a standard Calraxian design, requiring a quarter-turn counterclockwise, followed by a firm inward push. The mechanism resisted initially, then gave way with a satisfying click. The port swung open silently, revealing a darkened airlock chamber. Ellie slipped inside, closing the port behind her. Her helmet lamp illuminated the small chamber, revealing pristine conditions that contradicted the ship's external appearance. No dust, no damage. Nothing to suggest this vessel had been abandoned for any significant length of time. A chill ran down her spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. Something wasn't right. Nothing ventured. Nothing gained, she muttered to herself. Locating the interior airlock controls. The panel lit up at her touch, another surprise. The ship still had power. Ellie hesitated. Then, made a decision that would alter the course of her life. Rather than simply exploring and documenting her find, she would attempt a full restoration. With her skills and this vessel's legendary engineering, she could transform it from abandoned relic to operational spacecraft. The potential profit would solve her financial problems permanently. The airlock's atmospheric cycle completed with a soft hiss, and Ellie removed her helmet, taking a cautious breath. The air was stale but breathable, with the faint metallic tang common to long dormant vessels. She stepped through the inner door into what appeared to be a maintenance corridor, her boots echoing against the metal flooring. Emergency lighting activated automatically as she moved, casting long shadows ahead of her. The corridor led to a junction with 3 branches. According to standard Calraxian design, the central path should lead to the engine room, the heart of any vessel, and the first place Ellie needed to assess. The engine room doors were sealed but unlocked. They parted smoothly as she approached, revealing a vast chamber filled with the most advanced propulsion technology she had ever seen. The main reactor core dominated the center, a massive crystalline structure encased in protective shielding, currently dormant but undamaged. "Beautiful," she whispered, running her hand along a nearby control console. Everything was intact, merely powered down. This wasn't salvage, this was theft. Glorious, life-changing theft from whoever had abandoned such a masterpiece. Ellie set down her toolkit and began a systematic evaluation of the engine systems. Hours passed as she lost herself in the technical complexity, making notes on her datapad about required calibrations and potential upgrades. She was deep in the process of examining the quantum regulator when the engine room doors suddenly slammed shut behind her. Ellie spun around, heart racing. "Hello," she called out, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. No response. She approached the doors, which remained firmly sealed despite her proximity. The control panel beside them was now dark, unresponsive to her touch. "System malfunction," she reasoned aloud, trying to calm herself. "There's probably an emergency override somewhere." But as she turned back toward her toolkit, the main lights dimmed, and a faint hissing sound reached her ears. The ventilation system had activated, but instead of cycling fresh air into the room, it appeared to be removing it. A display panel on the wall flickered to life, showing oxygen levels dropping steadily. This was no malfunction. This was a deliberate security measure. Ellie rushed back to the doors, examining them more carefully. The seams were precision engineered, leaving no gap she could exploit. She pulled a plasma torch from her toolkit and attempted to cut through, but the metal dispersed the heat so efficiently that even at maximum output, the torch barely raised the temperature of the surface. The oxygen levels continued to drop. The display now showed a countdown 58 minutes until critical levels. "Emergency protocol," she shouted, hoping the ship's systems would respond to voice commands. "Override security lockdown. Authorization." She stopped, realizing the futility. This wasn't her ship. It wouldn't recognize her authority. Ellie forced herself to think logically. Calraxian vessels were designed with redundant safety systems. There had to be an emergency override, something that would function regardless of who was trapped. She scanned the walls carefully, looking for any panel or marking that might indicate an emergency system. Near the floor in the far corner, a faint discoloration caught her eye, a subtle difference in the metal's texture that might have been missed by anyone less experienced with spacecraft construction. Ellie knelt and ran her fingers over the area, feeling a slight depression. Pressing firmly, a small panel slid open, revealing a numeric keypad. "Emergency override code," she muttered. "But what's the code?" Calraxians typically used base 7 mathematics, which meant the code was likely a 7-digit sequence. Standard emergency protocols often used ship identification numbers or construction dates as default codes. She examined her surroundings for any identifying markers. Finally, spotting a small plaque near the reactor core with a series of numbers, possibly the engine's manufacturing information. The countdown now showed 42 minutes. Ellie input the 7-digit sequence from the plaque. The keypad flashed red. Incorrect. She tried several variations, reversing the sequence, using only alternate digits. Each attempt was rejected. 33 minutes. Her breathing was becoming labored as the oxygen thinned. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but she forced it down. Panic used oxygen. Panic clouded thinking. Panic killed. She tried using her plasma torch to cut through the keypad housing, hoping to bypass the security by directly accessing the wiring. The housing proved as resistant as the doors. 26 minutes. Ellie returned to her toolkit, searching for anything that might help. The standard breaching tools she carried were designed for common commercial vessels, not military-grade Calraxian engineering. As she rummaged through her tools, she noticed something odd, a faint, scratching sound coming from somewhere above her. She looked up at the ventilation ducts. The sound stopped immediately. "Is someone there?" she called out. Silence. Then, 3 distinct taps echoed through the metal ducting. Ellie's heart raced. Morse code. She listened intently. 3 more taps, followed by 3 longer sounds dashes in Morse, then 3 more taps. Sus. She responded by tapping the same pattern on the metal floor with a wrench. The reply came quickly, a complex series of taps and pauses that didn't conform to any Morse code Ellie recognized. Then silence again. 19 minutes. The mysterious communication had distracted her from the immediate problem. She returned to examining the room, looking for any other potential exit or override. That's when the intercom system crackled to life. Restoration verification protocol initiated, announced a synthetic voice with the distinctive harmonics of Kondraxian speech, an unusual choice for a Calraxian vessel. Subject demonstrates resourcefulness, but lacks complete understanding of systems. "Who are you?" Ellie demanded. "Why have you trapped me here?" "Identity irrelevant," the voice replied. "Purpose evaluation of restoration capability. Oxygen depletion, motivational parameter only." "Motivational parameter," Ellie repeated incredulously. "You're suffocating me as motivation?" "Correct. Capable restorer will locate necessary components for life support reactivation. Components are present within engine compartment." 14 minutes. Ellie's mind raced. This wasn't just a security system, it was a test. The ship was evaluating her. She began searching the engine room with renewed purpose, examining every console and access panel. Near the quantum regulator she'd been inspecting earlier, she noticed a slight asymmetry in the panel configuration, a section that didn't quite match the surrounding architecture. Pressing against different sections of the panel, she found a pressure point that caused a hidden compartment to slide open, revealing a crystalline data module glowing with faint blue light. "First component located," the voice announced. 2 remaining. 10 minutes. The countdown was accelerating her heart rate, consuming precious oxygen. Ellie forced herself to breathe slowly, methodically, as she continued her search. The second component was more challenging to find. She eventually discovered it inside a maintenance access tube, beneath the flooring, a small, ancient-looking mechanical key with ornate engravings. "Second component located," the voice confirmed. 1 remaining. Oxygen critical in 6 minutes. Ellie's vision was beginning to blur at the edges, a clear sign of oxygen deprivation. She stumbled slightly as she moved to the central reactor housing, drawn by intuition more than logic. The reactor's protective shielding was transparent, allowing her to see the crystalline core within. As she circled it, she noticed something odd about her reflection in the shielding, or, rather, something odd about the reflection of the room behind her. There was a shadow visible in the reflection that didn't exist in the actual room. Ellie turned, comparing the real space to its reflection. The shadow remained consistent in the reflection, suggesting it wasn't a visual anomaly, but a deliberate feature, perhaps a projection or hologram designed to be visible only indirectly. She moved to where the shadow appeared to fall and felt along the wall. Nothing unusual. Then she looked up. Above her, barely visible in the dim emergency lighting, was a small observation window. Etched into its surface was a pattern that matched a patch sewn onto her jumpsuit, a repair she'd made months ago after tearing the fabric during a particularly challenging salvage operation. 3 minutes. Ellie held up her arm, aligning the patch with the etched pattern. They matched perfectly, revealing a hidden keyhole in the wall that had been disguised by the pattern's complexity. She inserted the ornate key she'd found earlier. It fit perfectly but wouldn't turn. 2 minutes. Final component integration required, the voice prompted. The crystalline data module, it must connect somehow to the key mechanism. Ellie examined both pieces, finding a small receptacle in the key's handle that matched the module's base. She connected them, and the crystalline module pulsed with brightening light. 1 minute. Still, the key wouldn't turn. Something was missing. Ellie looked around desperately, her thoughts becoming sluggish as oxygen levels reached critical lows. The shadow in the reflection caught her attention again. It wasn't just a marking, it was indicating something. Outside the ship, something outside was casting that shadow. Calibration with external element required, she gasped, understanding suddenly. Solar alignment. It was a wild guess, but consistent with Calraxian engineering philosophy, their systems often incorporated natural elements, like stellar positions as security measures. State restoration purpose, the voice demanded unexpectedly. 30 seconds. Ellie's vision was tunneling, darkness encroaching from all sides. What? State purpose for restoration of this vessel? Was this the final test? Ellie didn't have time to strategize her answer. With oxygen-deprived honesty, she replied, because nothing this beautiful deserves to die forgotten. Because I can make it live again. Because we both deserve a second chance. The key suddenly turned freely in the lock. The doors to the engine room slid open, and fresh air rushed in. Ellie collapsed to her knees, gulping down oxygen-rich air as the ventilation system returned to normal function. As her vision cleared, she noticed the lighting had changed, the emergency red replaced by a soft, ambient blue. Restoration verification protocol completed, the synthetic voice announced, now emanating from the entire ship rather than just the intercom. Primary systems reactivating. Proceed to command bridge for initialization. Still breathing heavily, Ellie gathered her toolkit and made her way out of the engine room. The corridors were now fully illuminated, revealing intricate designs etched into the walls, navigational charts of distant star systems, historical events depicted in stylized imagery, and mathematical formulas that looked like poetry. The route to the bridge was clearly marked by illuminated pathway indicators that activated as she approached. The ship was guiding her. When she reached the bridge, the massive doors parted automatically. The command center beyond was breathtaking, a circular chamber with a transparent dome ceiling, revealing the asteroid field above. Surrounding control stations arranged in concentric circles, and a central command chair elevated on a small platform. Unlike the darkness she'd expected, the bridge was fully powered, holographic displays hovering at each station, showing ship diagnostics, stellar cartography, and communication channels. And she wasn't alone. Standing by the navigation console was a tall, slender figure with the characteristic iridescent skin of a Calraxian. Their four-fingered hands moved gracefully over the controls, adjusting settings with practiced precision. The Calraxian turned as Ellie entered, revealing faceted eyes that shifted color like oil on water. "Eleanor Carmichael," they said, their voice melodious with the subtle harmonic overtones typical of their species. "I am Zikatal, technical advisor to the Dawn Reclamation. Your restoration verification has been most illuminating. Ellie remained in the doorway, confusion and wariness competing with her natural curiosity. You nearly killed me to test my mechanical abilities. Zikatal's eyes shifted to a contemplative blue-green. The test was not of mechanical ability alone. The Dawn Reclamation requires more than technical competence from its commander. Commander, I'm a salvager. I came to restore the ship, not command it. The distinction is meaningless. To truly restore this vessel is to command it. Zikatal gestured to the surrounding bridge. This ship was never abandoned. Eleanor Carmichael. It was disguised, waiting for one worthy of awakening its systems. Ellie stepped further onto the bridge, her initial fear giving way to fascination. So the ship isn't damaged at all. The whole derelict appearance is just camouflage. Precisely. The Dawn Reclamation is one of 4 legendary vessels created during the final era of Calraxian shipbuilding. Each was designed to appear derelict until claimed by a worthy commander. And the suffocation test, was that really necessary? Zikatal moved toward a secondary console, bringing up historical records on a holographic display. The verification protocol has remained unchanged for 7 centuries. It assesses technical ability, problem-solving under pressure, and most importantly, motivation. The display showed previous commanders of similar vessels, beings of various species, who had apparently passed similar tests. Your response was most illuminating, Zikatal continued. Because nothing this beautiful deserves to die forgotten. Because I can make it live again. Because we both deserve a second chance. The ship found your answer. Authentic. Ellie approached the command chair cautiously, running her hand along its contoured arm. The material was cool to the touch, but seemed to warm slightly beneath her fingers. So what happens now? She asked. Still not entirely convinced, this wasn't an elaborate hallucination brought on by oxygen deprivation. Now you must decide. The Dawn Reclamation has accepted you as its commander. You may decline, in which case the ship will return to dormant status and transport you safely back to your vessel. Or you may accept, and the full capabilities of this ship will be at your disposal. Just like that, no contracts, no fine print. Zikatal's eyes shifted to an amused violet. Calraxian binding agreements are somewhat more substantial than paper contracts. The ship has evaluated your character and found it compatible with its mission parameters. That is worth more than any signed document. Ellie considered the offer. Her salvage operation had been barely keeping her afloat financially. The second chance was falling apart despite her best efforts. And here was a legendary vessel, offering her command. It seemed too good to be true. What's the catch? She asked directly. There's always a catch. Perceptive, Zikatal acknowledged. The catch, as you put it, is the ship's primary mission to locate and unite with the 3 other vessels of its class. They, too, await worthy commanders. And once they're united, that information is accessible only after all 4 vessels have been restored. Ellie frowned. So I'd be agreeing to a mission without knowing its ultimate purpose. Correct. She shook her head. No deal. I don't work in the dark. If I'm going to command this ship, I need transparency. No more tests. No more secrets. No more motivational parameters that nearly kill me. Rather than appearing disappointed, Zikatal seemed pleased by her response. The previous verification protocol was designed for a different era. Perhaps it is time for new approaches. They touched a sequence of controls on their wrist device. I am authorized to modify the terms of acceptance. Full disclosure of available information, with the understanding that some historical data has been lost over centuries. And no more life-threatening tests. I cannot promise the absence of danger in our mission, but I can promise that any future challenges will not be artificially imposed by the ship or its systems. Ellie considered the modified offer. Despite the terrifying introduction, she felt an undeniable connection to the vessel as though it had recognized something in her that others had missed. "I accept," she said finally, "with one condition of my own, my ship, the second chance. We retrieve it first. Bring it aboard if possible. It may be held together with adhesive and optimism, but it's mine." Zikatal nodded. "A reasonable request. The Dawn Reclamation has ample hangar space for a vessel of that size." Ellie took a deep breath and stepped onto the command platform. The chair adjusted as she sat, conforming perfectly to her body. The control interfaces repositioned themselves within easy reach. "Ship," she addressed the vessel directly. "Initiate full system restoration and prepare for departure from asteroid field K719. First destination retrieval of the second chance, approximately 50 meters off starboard bow." "Acknowledged, Commander," responded the ship's voice, no longer the synthetic Kondraxian tones, but a rich, warm sound that somehow reminded Ellie of distant thunder. "All systems online, cloaking field disengaging." Through the transparent dome, Ellie watched as the apparent derelict exterior of the ship transformed. Layers of artificial corrosion and damage faded away, revealing gleaming hull plates of an iridescent material that seemed to shift between silver and deep blue. Running lights activated along the vessel's length, and previously hidden stabilizer fins extended gracefully. "Impressive," she murmured. "The Dawn Reclamation was the flagship of the Stellar Horizon Fleet," Zikatal explained, taking position at the navigation console. "Its cloaking capabilities were unmatched in its time." The retrieval of the second chance was accomplished with surprising ease. The Dawn Reclamation extended a tractor beam that gently captured the smaller vessel and guided it into a hangar bay that could have accommodated 20 ships of its size. With her old ship secured, Ellie felt the last of her reservations fade. This was really happening. "Navigation," she addressed Zikatal. "What's our course to the first of the sister ships?" The Calraxian manipulated the stellar cartography controls, bringing up a three-dimensional map of a nearby sector. A pulsing light indicated their destination. The nearest vessel, the Twilight Convergence, was last recorded in the vicinity of the Meridian Nebula, at standard cruising speed, approximately 7 days' journey. Ellie leaned forward, studying the route. "And what can you tell me about this ship's capabilities? I should probably know what I'm working with before we head into potentially complicated territory." Zikatal's eyes shifted to an approving emerald hue. "A prudent request, Commander." What followed was a comprehensive briefing on the Dawn Reclamation systems, its quantum fold drive capable of near light-speed travel, adaptive shielding that could withstand direct hits from most known weapons, automated repair systems that could address structural damage within hours, and sensor arrays sensitive enough to detect individual spacecraft at distances of several light-years. "And weapons?" Ellie asked, noting their absence from the briefing. "The Dawn Reclamation was not designed primarily as a warship," Zikatal explained, "though it carries defensive capabilities consistent with its class: directed energy arrays, gravitational disruptors, and a limited complement of autonomous defense drones. Limited by design or by current status. By design, the vessel's creators believed that superior defensive capabilities rendered extensive offensive systems unnecessary." Ellie nodded, processing the information. "And crew a ship this size would typically require dozens of personnel." "The vessel is designed to operate with minimal crew, as few as one commander and one technical advisor, though it can accommodate up to 50 additional crew members if desired." "Currently, it's just you and me." "Correct, though the ship's automated systems effectively serve as a crew for most purposes." Ellie stood from the command chair and walked to the forward viewports, watching as the asteroid field began to recede. "Set course for the Meridian Nebula," she instructed. "Standard cruising speed. Let's not announce our presence too dramatically until we know what we're facing." "Course plotted," Zikatal confirmed. "Estimated arrival in 7 days, 3 hours." The ship hummed with increasing power as its drives engaged. The sensation was unlike anything Ellie had experienced, not the rattling vibration of commercial transports or the harsh thrust of military vessels, but a smooth, almost musical resonance that seemed to flow through the structure. "Commander," the ship's voice addressed her, "would you like to record an initial captain's log entry?" The question caught Ellie off guard. Captain's logs were traditional, of course, but somehow making one would make this all official, would transform her from Eleanor Carmichael, struggling salvager, to Commander Carmichael of the legendary Dawn Reclamation. She glanced at her reflection in the viewport jumpsuit, stained with engine grease. Hair disheveled from the helmet, dark circles under her eyes from the oxygen deprivation she'd experienced hours earlier. Not exactly the image of a starship commander from the historical archives. But perhaps that was the point. The ship hadn't chosen her because she matched some predetermined image of command. It had chosen her because she'd seen value in something others had dismissed as worthless, because she'd been willing to fight for a second chance. "Record entry," she decided. "This is Eleanor Carmichael, acting commander of the Calraxian vessel, Dawn Reclamation. Today marks the beginning of our mission to locate the three sister ships and unite the Stellar Horizon fleet. Our first destination is the Meridian Nebula, in search of the Twilight Convergence." She paused, considering what else to add. Personal reflections seemed appropriate for a captain's log. "I'm not entirely sure why I've been chosen for this role, but I intend to honor the trust placed in me. This ship deserves a commander who will recognize its value and potential, and I intend to be worthy of that position." She nodded to indicate the end of the entry. "Log recorded," the ship confirmed. As the asteroid field disappeared behind them, and the stars spread out in an infinite tapestry ahead, Ellie felt a sense of possibility she hadn't experienced in years. Whatever lay ahead, whatever challenges they would face in finding the sister ships, she knew one thing with certainty: nothing this magnificent deserved to die forgotten. The Dawn Reclamation cruised silently through the void, its systems humming with renewed purpose. The days passed in a blur of discovery as Ellie familiarized herself with the ship's capabilities, spending hours in engineering decks that would have made her younger self weep with joy. On the third day, as they passed through a particularly dense region of space, the ship's sensors detected an unusual energy signature. "Commander to the bridge," the ship's voice announced throughout the vessel. Ellie arrived to find Zikatal already analyzing the readings. "What have we got?" she asked, sliding into the command chair. "Unidentified energy pattern, bearing 174 Mark III. Characteristics suggest artificial origin, but no match in our database." Ellie studied the sensor display. "Distance: approximately 600,000 kilometers. Currently stationary. Alter course to investigate," Ellie decided. "But maintain distance until we identify it. Passive scans only." The Dawn Reclamation adjusted its trajectory smoothly. As they drew closer, the energy signature resolved into a more coherent pattern on their sensors. "It appears to be a distress beacon," Zikatal reported, "but using an encryption protocol unknown to our systems." Ellie frowned. "Could it be a trap?" "Possible. Historical records indicate similar tactics were employed during the spectral incursion conflicts." "Recommendations." Zikatal's eyes shifted to a thoughtful amber. "We could deploy a drone to investigate more closely while maintaining the ship at a safe distance." "Do it," Ellie agreed. A small reconnaissance drone was launched from the Dawn Reclamation's ventral bay. It approached the energy signature cautiously, transmitting real-time data back to the ship. The source of the signature came into view on the bridge's main screen, a small, cylindrical device floating freely in space, its surface covered with intricate patterns that pulsed with soft blue light. "Analysis indicates the device is of Meridian construction," Zikatal reported with surprise. "Estimated age less than 1 stellar cycle." "Meridian," Ellie repeated. "I thought they were extinct." "Their civilization collapsed approximately 3 centuries ago, but it appears some may have survived." The drone circled the device, capturing it from all angles. Suddenly, the pulsing patterns changed rhythm, and a holographic projection erupted from the cylinder's top. A three-dimensional star chart materialized, with a specific location highlighted and coordinates streaming alongside it. It's a navigation marker, Zikatal realized. The coordinates lead to a location within the Meridian Nebula, very close to our destination. Ellie studied the projection thoughtfully. Could be coincidence. Could be someone knows we're coming. The timing suggests the latter. Zikatal agreed. The marker's power signature indicates it was activated recently within the past 48 hours. Can we verify if these coordinates match our existing information about the Twilight Convergence's location? Zikatal overlaid the ship's navigation data with the coordinates from the marker. There's a variance of approximately 12,000 kilometers negligible at nebula scale. Ellie drummed her fingers on the arm of the command chair, weighing the implications. Recall the drone and secure the marker in a containment field. I want to know who placed it here and how they knew our destination. The drone retrieved the device and returned to the ship. In the secure analysis lab, Zikatal examined it more closely while Ellie observed. The craftsmanship is undeniably Meridian, the Calraxian confirmed. But the power source is more advanced than anything in our historical records of their technology. Someone's been making improvements, Ellie mused. Can you access any data storage it might contain? I'm attempting to establish a compatible interface now. After several hours of careful work, Zikatal succeeded in extracting a message from the device, a short video recording that played on the lab's display screen. The figure that appeared was humanoid, but clearly not human skin with a subtle blue undertone, eyes larger than human norm, and delicate gill-like structures along the neck. To the commander of the Dawn Reclamation, the figure spoke in accented, but understandable galactic standard. I am Nerolith of the Meridian Remnant. We have been waiting for the Stellar Horizon Fleet to awaken for generations. The Twilight Convergence lies at the coordinates provided, but be warned, others seek it as well. Trust the shadows within the nebula. They are our guardians. We will find you when the time is right. The message ended abruptly. Well, Ellie said after a moment of silence. That's cryptic. The Meridian Remnant was rumored to exist, Zikatal noted, but never confirmed. They were said to be the descendants of those who escaped the cataclysm that destroyed their homeworld. And apparently they've been waiting for us. Or ships like ours. Ellie crossed her arms, contemplating the implications. What did they mean about others seeking the ship? Unknown. But if the Twilight Convergence maintains the same camouflage protocols as the Dawn Reclamation, it would appear as salvage to most observers. Which means salvagers, scrappers, pirates, anyone looking for valuable materials, might have found it. Ellie straightened. We need to accelerate our timeline. How quickly can we reach the nebula at maximum speed? Approximately 36 hours, but navigating within the nebula will require reduced velocity. Set course and push the engines to maximum sustainable output. I want to reach that nebula as quickly as possible without compromising the ship. As they prepared to depart, Ellie had the marker placed in secure storage rather than jettisoning it. Intuition told her they might need it again. The Dawn Reclamation surged forward with remarkable acceleration, the stars blurring slightly at the edges of the viewports as the quantum fold drive engaged fully. Despite the increased speed, the ride remained smooth, a testament to the vessel's extraordinary engineering. Ellie spent the transit time studying everything available about the Meridian Nebula and its history. The massive cloud of gas and dust spanned several light years, its composition creating the unusual purplish-green illumination that had given the nebula its name. Within its depths, stellar formation was ongoing, new stars igniting in a process that had continued uninterrupted for millennia. The Meridians had once claimed the entire nebula as their territory, building outposts throughout its expanse before their civilization's mysterious collapse. Historical records were vague about what had caused their downfall. Some sources cited a plague, others an invasion, and still others suggested a catastrophic technological failure. "Commander," the ship alerted her as she was reviewing the sparse information. "We are approaching the nebula perimeter." Ellie made her way to the bridge, where the forward viewports revealed their destination, a vast, luminous cloud swirling with colors that seemed to defy standard classification. Neither fully purple nor green, but somehow both simultaneously. "Reduce speed to 1/4 and proceed with caution," she instructed. "Activate full sensor sweep, all frequencies." The Dawn reclamation slowed as it approached the nebula's outer boundary. The sensors immediately began reporting unusual readings, electromagnetic fluctuations, radiation spikes, and gravitational anomalies that seemed to shift unpredictably. "Navigation through these conditions will be challenging," Zikatal observed. "The nebula's composition interferes with standard sensor arrays." "Can we compensate?" "Partially. I recommend deploying sensor drones in a triangulated formation to improve spatial mapping." Ellie nodded her approval, and 3 additional drones were launched, positioning themselves around the ship to create a more comprehensive sensor network. As they penetrated the nebula's outer layers, visibility decreased dramatically. The viewports showed only swirling clouds of illuminated gas, occasionally broken by darker shadows that might have been more dense matter or something else entirely. "Proceed at 1/8 speed," Ellie ordered. "Keep us on course for the coordinates, but prioritize safety over speed." Their progress through the nebula was slow and tense. The drone's sensor data helped, but navigation remained challenging as the nebula's composition shifted unpredictably around them. 6 hours into their journey through the cosmic cloud, one of the drones suddenly went offline. "Drone 3 has ceased transmission," Zikatal reported, fingers moving rapidly over the controls. Last data packet indicated a rapid approach of an unidentified object. "Defensive posture," Ellie commanded instantly. "Shields to maximum. Arm defensive systems but hold fire unless I give the order." The ship complied silently, its shield generators humming with increased power. The remaining drones were recalled to protective positions near the hull. "Scan for artificial structures or vessels," Ellie instructed. "Scanning," Zikatal confirmed. After a moment, multiple returns, but the nebula's interference makes precise identification impossible. They could be debris, natural formations, or vessels. Ellie considered their options. Continuing blind was dangerous, but turning back wasn't an option. "Ship," she addressed the Dawn reclamation directly. "Do you have any specialized protocols for nebula navigation that might improve our sensor capability?" "Affirmative, Commander," the ship responded. "Stellar Horizon-class vessels are equipped with quantum resonance mapping. This system was specifically designed for navigation in dense, stellar mediums." "Why wasn't this activated automatically?" Ellie asked, glancing at Zikatal. "The system requires significant power diversion from other systems," the Calraxian explained. "It was deemed an optional protocol, rather than a primary navigation method." "Activate it," Ellie ordered. "Divert power from non-essential systems as needed." "Compliance will require temporary reduction in shield strength," the ship warned. Ellie frowned. Reducing shields when potential threats were nearby was risky, but navigating blind might be worse. "Maintain shields at 70% capacity. Divert remaining power as needed for the quantum resonance mapping. Execute." The lighting on the bridge dimmed slightly as power was redistributed. New displays activated, showing a different kind of sensor reading instead of traditional electromagnetic returns. These showed patterns of quantum probability, revealing the nebula's structure at a more fundamental level. The difference was immediate and dramatic. What had appeared as opaque, swirling clouds now resolved into distinct layers and structures. And within those structures, the outline of something massive began to take shape approximately 20,000 kilometers ahead. "Is that what I think it is?" Ellie asked, leaning forward. Zikatal adjusted the display's parameters. "Confirmation the object matches the known dimensions and configuration of a Stellar Horizon-class vessel. Specifically, the profile is consistent with the twilight convergence. Ellie felt a surge of triumph, quickly tempered by caution. What about other vessels or structures in the vicinity? The enhanced sensors revealed several smaller objects moving in patterns that suggested artificial control rather than natural drift. They appeared to be circling the twilight convergence at varying distances. I count 7 smaller vessels, Zikatal reported. Configuration suggests mining or salvage operations. They think it's derelict, Ellie realized. Just like I thought the Dawn reclamation was. They're preparing to strip it for parts. If the twilight convergence is maintaining camouflage protocols, it would indeed appear as valuable salvage. Zikatal agreed. However, any attempt to breach its hull would likely trigger defensive measures similar to those you experienced. Ellie considered the implications. So either those salvagers are about to get a very unpleasant surprise, or they've already triggered the ship's defenses and are being evaluated as potential commanders. The latter seems unlikely given their approach. The verification protocol typically activates only after a potential commander expresses intention to restore rather than dismantle. Ellie tapped her fingers against the arm of her chair, thinking, "We need to intervene before they damage the ship or trigger its defense systems in a way that might harm them." Suggestions. Zikatal's eyes shifted to a tactical red-orange. We could reveal ourselves. The appearance of an active Stellar Horizon vessel would likely discourage salvage attempts. Alternatively, we could attempt communication to warn them of the danger. Let's try communication first. Hail the nearest vessel. Audio only. Let's not reveal too much until we know who we're dealing with. Zikatal opened a channel. Attention salvage vessels in proximity to the derelict craft. This is the Starship Dawn Reclamation. Be advised that the object you are attempting to salvage is not what it appears to be. Please respond. Silence for several moments. Then a gruff voice replied, "This is Captain Drav of the Ironback. We've claimed this salvage legally under Frontier Accord regulations. Find your own junk. Dawn Reclamation." "Captain Drav," Ellie responded, taking over the communication. "I'm Commander Carmichael. That junk you're attempting to salvage is an active Calraxian vessel with automated defense systems. If breached incorrectly, those systems will activate with potentially lethal consequences. We're here to prevent that from happening." A different voice cut in on the channel higher, pitched, agitated. "Calraxian. Those blue-skinned myths died out centuries ago. This is just a fancy piece of scrap, and we've spent too much time tracking it down to walk away." "You don't have to walk away," Ellie assured them. "Just stand down temporarily while we approach. I can prove what I'm telling you." A third voice joined the conversation, calmer, more measured. "This is Syndicate Overseer Pax. Perhaps we should hear them out. If they're right, we could be risking our crews unnecessarily." After a brief silence, filled with what sounded like private disagreement among the salvage team, Captain Drav's voice returned. "You have 1 hour to approach and prove your claims. Any aggressive movements, and we'll consider it an attempt to steal our claim." "Understood," Ellie acknowledged. "We're moving in now. Dawn Reclamation out." She closed the channel and turned to Zikatal. "Advance at 1/4 speed. Maintain defensive readiness, but keep weapons powered down. Let's not escalate the situation." The Dawn Reclamation moved forward through the nebula, its true appearance now fully visible as they had dropped the camouflage protocols upon initiating communication. The quantum resonance mapping continued to provide exceptional navigational data, allowing them to plot a precise course toward the twilight convergence and the salvage vessels surrounding it. As they drew closer, the salvage operation came into clear view. 7 vessels of varying sizes and designs had established a loose perimeter around the apparently derelict Stellar Horizon ship. 2 had already attached magnetic grapples to the hull and were preparing cutting equipment. "Hail Captain Drav again," Ellie instructed. When the connection was established, she continued, "Captain, Please instruct your vessels to detach their grapples immediately. The ship's defensive systems may interpret that as an attack. Commander, Zikatal interrupted urgently. Energy readings from the Twilight Convergence are increasing. Its systems appear to be activating. Too late, Ellie muttered. Captain Drav, order your ships to pull back now. The ship is waking up. Through the viewports, they watched as the seemingly derelict vessel began to transform. The artificial corrosion faded, revealing the same iridescent hull material as the Dawn Reclamation. Lights activated along its length, and previously, hidden structures extended from its hull. The salvage vessels scrambled to retreat, the two attached by grapples struggling to detach as the Twilight Convergence's systems fully activated. The ship is initiating a defensive pulse, Zikatal warned. Electromagnetic discharge imminent. Extend our shields, Ellie ordered. Try to cover as many of the salvage vessels as possible. The Dawn Reclamation's shield generators strained as they projected a protective field beyond the ship's immediate perimeter. The field reached 3 of the smaller salvage vessels just as the Twilight Convergence released a massive electromagnetic pulse. The unprotected vessels immediately lost power, drifting helplessly in the nebula's currents. The 3 within the Dawn Reclamation's extended shield experienced only minor system fluctuations. The Twilight Convergence now hung in space, fully awakened and apparently scanning its surroundings. Its configuration was similar to the Dawn Reclamation, but with subtle differences, its hull coloration shifting toward deeper blues. Its stabilizer fins more prominently swept back. Open a channel to the Twilight Convergence, Ellie instructed. Ship to ship, all frequencies. Zikatal complied, but reported no response to standard hailing protocols. Try the Restoration Verification Protocol frequency, Ellie suggested, remembering how her own experience had begun. A new display activated on the command console, showing a simple text message. Verification status incomplete. Commander candidate unknown. Approach for transfer of command authority required. It's waiting for its commander, Ellie realized. And since we interrupted the process with the salvagers, it's in a holding pattern. The ship would typically enter hibernation again if no suitable candidate is identified. Zikatal explained. But our presence, another active Stellar Horizon vessel, has likely triggered its fleet protocols. Ellie nodded her understanding. First, let's deal with the salvagers. Hail Captain Drav again. The captain's voice, when he responded, was considerably less belligerent than before. I see you weren't exaggerating, Commander. 4 of my ships are dead in space. We can help restore power to your vessels, Ellie offered. But you need to understand these ships are not salvage. They're fully operational Calraxian vessels with specific protocols for selecting their commanders. So I gathered, Drav replied dryly. What exactly are you proposing? We assist in getting your ships operational again, and in return, you withdraw your salvage claim and allow us to proceed with our mission regarding these vessels. There was a pause before Drav responded. And what compensation do we receive for the time and resources we've already expended tracking this ship? Ellie considered. The salvagers were in no position to demand much, but establishing goodwill might be valuable. I propose a fair exchange of information, she decided. We'll provide technical specifications for advanced shielding technology compatible with your vessels, something that would be particularly valuable for operations in hazardous environments like this nebula. Another pause, longer this time, followed by, make it shielding and propulsion tech, and we have a deal. Basic propulsion improvements only, Ellie countered. Nothing that could be weaponized. Agreed. With the agreement reached, the Dawn Reclamation extended assistance to the disabled salvage vessels, providing the technical expertise to restore their systems after the electromagnetic pulse. True to her word, Ellie authorized the transfer of specific technical data on shielding and basic propulsion improvements to Captain Drav's ship. As the salvagers prepared to depart, the gruff captain opened a final communication channel. Commander Carmichael, he said, his tone notably more respectful than in their initial exchange. A word of caution. We're not the only ones who've been tracking these ghost ships. There are rumors among the frontier stations of organized groups specifically hunting for Calraxian technology. Be careful out there. Appreciated, Captain, Ellie responded. Safe travels. As the salvage fleet disappeared into the nebula's swirling clouds, Ellie turned her attention back to the Twilight Convergence. Now, how do we approach the command transfer? She asked Zikatal. Historical records suggest that when multiple stellar horizon vessels encounter each other, a synchronization protocol is initiated. The commanding officers would traditionally meet on the flagship in this case, the Dawn Reclamation, to coordinate fleet actions. But we don't have a commander for the Twilight Convergence, Ellie pointed out. Precisely, which means you, as commander of the Dawn Reclamation, have temporary authority to designate a new commander subject to the verification protocols. Of course. Ellie considered this information. So I need to find someone suitable to command that ship. Any suggestions? Zikatal's eyes shifted to a contemplative blue. The ideal candidate would possess technical knowledge, adaptability, and a genuine appreciation for the vessel's heritage qualities, similar to those you demonstrated. Ellie paced the bridge, thinking. What about you? You're certainly qualified in terms of technical knowledge and understanding of the ship's heritage. I am a technical advisor, not a command candidate, Zikatal replied. My neural patterns are specifically calibrated for advisory functions, rather than primary command authority. So we need to find someone else, Ellie mused. She stopped pacing suddenly, as a realization struck her. Wait, the Meridian message mentioned that they've been waiting for the fleet to awaken. They must have candidates prepared. A logical conclusion, Zikatal agreed. The message said to trust the shadows within the nebula. Let's see if we can make contact. Ellie instructed the ship to broadcast on all frequencies. This is Commander Carmichael of the Dawn Reclamation to the Meridian Remnant. We have secured the Twilight Convergence and seek to discuss command candidacy. Please respond. Minutes passed with no reply. Ellie was about to try a different approach when the sensors detected movement, subtle disturbances in the nebula's gases that suggested a vessel approaching. Contact bearing 142 Mark 7, Zikatal reported. Small vessel, approximately 20 meters in length. Minimal energy signature. On screen, Ellie ordered. The main display showed only swirling nebula gases until the quantum resonance mapping refined the image, revealing a sleek, organic-looking craft that seemed to flow through the nebula rather than pushing against it. Its hull appeared to be composed of a material that absorbed rather than reflected light, making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Remarkable design, Zikatal observed. It utilizes the nebula's natural currents for propulsion and concealment. A communication signal reached them, audio only, with the same accented voice they had heard in the recorded message. Commander Carmichael, I am Nerolith of the Meridian Remnant. We have observed your interaction with the salvagers and your protection of the Twilight Convergence. Your actions suggest you may indeed be the awakening we have awaited. Nerolith, Ellie acknowledged. We received your navigation marker. You mentioned that you've been waiting for the Stellar Horizon fleet. We're on a mission to locate all 4 vessels. As prophesied, Nerolith responded. Request permission to dock with your vessel for direct consultation. Ellie glanced at Zikatal, who nodded approval. Permission granted. Our hangar bay is opening now. Follow the guidance beacons. The Meridian vessel approached gracefully, slipping into the Dawn Reclamation's hangar bay with precision that spoke of exceptional piloting skill. Ellie and Zikatal made their way to the hangar to greet their visitor. Nerolith emerged from the vessel, taller than the hologram had suggested, nearly 2 meters in height, with the blue-tinted skin and gill-like structures they had observed in the recording. The Meridian wore simple, flowing garments of a material that seemed to capture and redistribute light, creating subtle patterns across its surface. Commander Carmichael, Nerolith greeted, with a formal gesture, Right hand pressed to center chest. Then extended palm upward. Technical Advisor Zikatal. It is an honor to stand in the presence of those who have awakened the Dawn Reclamation. Ellie attempted to return the gesture, hoping she wasn't mangling some crucial aspect of Meridian etiquette. The honor is ours. Your message mentioned that your people have been waiting for these ships to awaken. For 17 generations, Nerolith confirmed. Since the cataclysm that destroyed our homeworld and scattered our people. The prophecy of reconvergence speaks of 4 ships and 4 commanders who would unite to prevent a second cataclysm from befalling the galactic rim. Ellie exchanged glances with Zikatal. This is the first we're hearing about preventing a cataclysm. The ship's records only mentioned uniting the fleet. The full purpose was fragmented for security, Nerolith explained. Each vessel contains a portion of the knowledge. Only when all 4 are united with their commanders will the complete mission be revealed. And you have someone who can command the Twilight Convergence, Ellie asked, steering the conversation back to their immediate concern. I am that someone, Nerolith responded simply. I have trained since childhood for this role, studying the technical specifications, philosophical underpinnings, and operational protocols of Stellar Horizon vessels. Ellie considered this claim. The ship's verification protocol is quite intense. Are you prepared for that? A subtle expression that might have been amusement crossed Nerolith's features. The protocol was partially designed by my ancestors. The Meridians were close allies of the Calraxians during the Stellar Horizon era. We understand what is required. Then, let's proceed. Ellie decided. According to Zikatal, as current commander of the flagship, I have temporary authority to designate a command candidate for the Twilight Convergence. They returned to the bridge, where Ellie formally initiated the command transfer protocol. The main display showed the Twilight Convergence, now fully activated, but awaiting instructions. Dawn Reclamation. Ellie addressed her ship. Initiate fleet synchronization protocol with the Twilight Convergence. Designate Nerolith of the Meridian Remnant as command candidate. Authority code Carmichael Alpha 7 Tango. Synchronization protocol initiated. The ship confirmed. Candidate designation transmitted. Twilight Convergence acknowledges and requests candidate presence for verification. Nerolith stepped forward. I am prepared to transfer immediately. We'll escort you, Ellie decided. I want to witness this process from the other side. A shuttle transported them from the Dawn Reclamation to the Twilight Convergence. As they approached, Ellie noted the subtle differences between the 2 vessels' variations in the hull patterning. Slight structural differences that suggested each ship had been individually crafted rather than mass-produced. They docked at an external airlock, which cycled open at their approach. The interior of the Twilight Convergence was similar to the Dawn Reclamation in layout, but featured different color schemes, deeper blues and purples, compared to the Dawn Reclamation's silver and azure tones. The verification chamber will be in the central section, Nerolith stated confidently, leading the way through corridors that gradually lit up as they passed. The chamber they eventually reached was circular, dominated by a central platform surrounded by various technological interfaces. Above the platform, a holographic display showed complex, shifting patterns that seemed to respond to their presence. The verification is different for each candidate, Nerolith explained, stepping onto the platform. It adapts to the individual's psychological profile and technical capabilities. The holographic display intensified, surrounding Nerolith completely. Within the swirling lights, Ellie could see symbols and equations forming and dissolving, apparently responding to Nerolith's unspoken thoughts. Suddenly, the entire chamber darkened, leaving only Nerolith illuminated on the platform. A synthetic voice, similar to what Ellie had heard during her own verification, echoed through the space. Candidate Nerolith of Meridian descent. Lineage verified. Technical capability assessed at 93% compatibility. Psychological profile aligned with command parameters. State purpose for assuming command. Nerolith's response was clear and unwavering: to fulfill the prophecy of reconvergence, to unite the Stellar Horizon fleet and prevent the Second Cataclysm, to honor the alliance between Meridian and Calraxian that has endured beyond the fall of both civilizations. The chamber remained dark for several tense moments. Then, gradually, lights began to reactivate, not emergency lighting, but the full illumination of an active vessel. Purpose acknowledged, the ship's voice confirmed. Command transfer authorized. Welcome, Commander Nerolith. The holographic display dissipated, and Nerolith stepped down from the platform with the expression of profound relief. It is done. The Twilight Convergence accepts me. Ellie found herself smiling. Congratulations, Commander. That was considerably less dramatic than my verification experience. Each verification is tailored to the candidate, Zikatal explained. Yours, tested resourcefulness and motivation under pressure. Nerolith's appears to have focused on lineage verification and philosophical alignment. Now we are two, Nerolith stated, a note of ceremony in their voice. 2 commanders, 2 vessels. 2 remain to be found. And do you have candidates prepared for those as well? Ellie asked. We had 4 candidates prepared, Nerolith acknowledged. But your emergence was unexpected, a variable not accounted for in our preparations. It suggests the prophecy's fulfillment may not follow the path we anticipated. Where do we find the remaining ships? Ellie asked, refocusing on their mission. The dusk equilibrium was last tracked to the vortex anomaly, near the galactic rim. The midnight resurgence. Its location remains uncertain. Our records suggest it may have activated briefly, approximately 70 years ago, but the signal was lost before triangulation could be completed. Ellie nodded, mentally calculating. So our next destination is the vortex anomaly. How long will it take to reach it? At maximum sustainable speed, approximately 15 days, Zikatal supplied. Then we should get moving, Ellie decided. The sooner we unite the fleet, the sooner we learn the full purpose of this mission. They returned to their respective ships, Ellie and Zikatal, to the Dawn Reclamation, Nerolith to the newly awakened Twilight Convergence. As they prepared to depart the nebula, Ellie recorded a new captain's log entry. Commander's log. Eleanor Carmichael of the Dawn Reclamation. We have successfully located the Twilight Convergence and witnessed its awakening under Commander Nerolith of the Meridian Remnant. Our mission now takes us to the Vortex Anomaly in search of the third vessel, the Dusk Equilibrium. The scope of our mission appears to be expanding. What began as a search for sister ships has evolved into a prophecy of preventing some kind of cataclysm. I still don't have all the answers, but one thing is becoming clear. These ships were hidden for a reason, waiting for the right moment and the right people to awaken them. I can't help but wonder why I was chosen an independent salvager with no connection to ancient prophecies or fallen civilizations. But perhaps that's precisely the point. Sometimes the right person for a job isn't the one with the most impressive lineage or the most extensive training. Sometimes it's just someone who sees value where others see only wreckage, who's willing to give something or someone a second chance. As the log entry concluded, Ellie looked out at the nebula, where the Twilight Convergence now moved in perfect synchronization with the Dawn Reclamation. 2 legendary vessels, awakened and united after centuries of dormancy. 2 more to find, and then, perhaps answers to the questions that grew more numerous with each discovery. The ships accelerated in tandem, leaving the swirling colors of the Meridian Nebula behind as they set course for the distant Vortex Anomaly and whatever challenges awaited them there. The legendary fleet was beginning to rise from obscurity, and with it, a mission that spanned centuries and civilizations, a mission that had somehow found its way to Eleanor Carmichael, the mechanic who had restored an abandoned cruiser to its rightful glory.